Okay, let's just jump right into this. We are looking at a direct quote that just took an already fragile geopolitical crisis and cranked the dial all the way up. Former US President Donald Trump posted this stark, uncompromising warning online, threatening that 1,000 missiles are locked, loaded, and aimed directly at Iran. We're not just talking about standard political rhetoric here, this is the language of total, devastating conflict. It is honestly staggering to see this level of direct, existential threat broadcast so openly to the world. But to really understand that threat, we've got to look at what provoked it on the ground. During the incredibly emotional funeral for Iran's late supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, mourners weren't just grieving. They were repeatedly holding up posters and banners openly calling for the assassination of Donald Trump, as well as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You literally have thousands of people in the streets demanding the death of a former American president, and that exact president threatening immediate mass-scale missile strikes in return. So it begs the question, right? How does a state funeral essentially become the flashpoint for a global panic? How did the world get pushed to the absolute edge of a new catastrophic war in just a matter of days? What are the underlying mechanics driving this massive escalation? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we aren't just going to recap the daily headlines. We're going to logically unpack the hidden stakes behind them. We're going to dive into the military escalation, the staggering risk of global oil disruption, and the terrifying consequences if diplomacy fully collapses. Here is how we're going to break it down today. First, the spark, funeral and threats. Second, the powder keg, regional brinkmanship. Third, the choke point, Hormuz standoff. And finally, the fallout, collapsing diplomacy. All right, let's get into part one, the spark, funeral, and threats. This is where the current escalation really began. The events unfolded at the Imam Reza Shrine in Mashhad. It was the final day of multi-day funeral ceremonies for the late supreme leader. And you kind of have to picture the atmosphere here. Tens of thousands of deeply grieving, highly agitated mourners pouring into the streets. This wasn't just a solemn procession. It was a fiercely political event featuring open, highly visible calls and banners demanding the assassination of American and Israeli leadership. That specific, highly charged environment directly provoked the response from the United States. And that U.S. response, it was absolutely unprecedented in its severity. In direct retaliation to those assassination threats from the mourners, Donald Trump took to Truth Social. He didn't just threaten a targeted military strike. He stated that the U.S. military would completely decimate and destroy all areas of Iran. The reporting even notes that he mockingly invoked the name of Allah in his post, writing, "Praise be to Allah," while threatening to destroy Iran's civilization. We are looking at a maximum pressure escalation of rhetoric from both sides. Which brings us to a pretty terrifying question. The region was supposedly operating under a temporary interim deal to end previous fighting. But can a fragile ceasefire realistically survive when you've got thousands of locked missiles on one side and thousands of people publicly calling for assassinations on the other? Moving on to part two, the powder keg, regional brinkmanship. Let's look at the actual military reality on the ground. Because look, this isn't just about harsh words online anymore. The situation on the ground has deteriorated at breakneck speed. Earlier this week, the spark really caught fire when Iran attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. In the days following that, the U.S. responded with direct airstrikes targeting Iran. And, in the immediate aftermath, we saw Iranian retaliatory fire targeting nations all across the Middle East. It's a textbook rapid-fire sequence of tit-for-tat military escalation. What this reality makes abundantly clear is that the interim deal to end the war is completely buckling. It is collapsing under repeated regional crossfire. We aren't just looking at isolated incidents here. We are looking at a localized conflict threatening to spill over into a massive, uncontainable regional war. The ceasefire exists on paper, sure, but on the ground, the missiles are already flying. But if we want to truly understand why the entire world is paying such close attention, we have to ask, why did a few ships in a Middle Eastern waterway trigger such massive U.S. airstrikes? What is so critically important about this specific stretch of water? That brings us to part 3, the choke point, Hormuz standoff. Let's talk about the global economic stakes. If there is one single thing you remember from this explainer, it should be this definition. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a river or a bay. It is a hypercritical international maritime corridor. It is literally the jugular vein of the global energy supply.
A massive percentage of the world's oil flows right through this narrow choke point. So when things happen here, it doesn't just affect the Middle East. It affects the cost of the gas you put in your car, the cost of goods shipped to your door, and the stability of the entire global economy.
And right now, there is an absolute fundamental deadlock over who controls this choke point. The conflicting demands couldn't be more stark. Senior U.S. officials are demanding that Iran publicly state the strait is open and immediately stop attacking crossing ships. Iran, on the other hand, is completely refusing. They are insisting on maintaining control of the route, and shockingly, they want to charge tolls to any ships moving through it. There is zero middle ground right now. And remember this number, 3. That is the exact number of ships Iran attacked earlier this week in the Strait. This is no longer just a theoretical debate over maritime law. Iran is actively enforcing its demands with military force, proving to the international community that the threat to global shipping is very, very real. So we are forced to ask ourselves, what happens to the global economy if this vital choke point closes entirely? If Iran acts on its desire to control the strait and the U.S. acts on its threat to launch thousands of missiles, the global oil supply chain will fracture overnight. Which leads us to our final section, part 4, the fallout, collapsing diplomacy. Let's look at the consequences of a total failure in negotiations. Let's bring all of this together, because the hidden global stakes here are cascading. First, we are looking at the total collapse of the interim ceasefire, essentially a return to all-out war. Second, we have sitting and former leaders casually threatening the complete decimation of entire civilizations. Third, and critically for your daily life, we are facing a radical alteration of global shipping rules. And finally, a severe immediate risk to the international oil supply that could easily trigger a global recession. I really want to focus on that third point for a second. The AP reporting notes that Tehran's stance is upending decades of precedents considering the strait an international waterway. By demanding tolls and asserting sovereign control over the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is essentially trying to rewrite the rules of global commerce that have kept international waters free and open since World War II. It's a fundamental challenge to the global order as we know it. We've seen the raw grief in the streets of Mashhad. We've read the uncompromising threats of destruction, and we are watching the economic heartbeat of the world being held hostage in a narrow strait of water. With missiles locked, ships actively being attacked, and diplomacy openly fracturing in real time, we are left with one final, deeply unsettling thought. Is a wider global crisis now inevitable? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the street.